it's recording, okay, and I've been recording the audio here, but I want people may just watch this on video, so I want them to be able to jump in here. So
yeah, sure.
This is the first recording. This is our first meeting of it is called The Odd Show, right?
Odd Show, yeah.
And it's weird because it's spelled wrong. The G is silent.
G is silent.
It's the Odd Show. The G is silent. And the only thing is, you need to remember to type the G in the old internet window there, or you're going to get some other show. I don't know. I haven't looked to see what ODD is. In fact, I was thinking maybe we should have bought that domain and just done a redirect.
Rerouted it. Actually, that might be a good idea.
Let's now that everybody on the show is like, nope, already went to GoDaddy, already got it, and yeah, $100 you can have it.
Yeah,
we don't need it that bad. So thank you for everybody joining us here. It's I'm Rocco DeLeo, one of your hosts, and Bruce, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Bruce Pagano. I don't know. We were just gonna kind of pitch a little bit, right?
Yeah. Just give a little bit of who you are, where you write, where people can find you.
I just retired from the Air Force last year. I was in the Air Force for almost 20 years. They offered me early retirement, and I was like, yes, I want that. So I took that and we moved our family out to DC, and we were kind of trying to start. Well, we were in the middle of planting a church. Here comes Thomas. We were in the middle of planting a church, kind of a little bit different than traditional church. It was very much, a community-based neighborhood, not exactly a home church, a little bit more than that. We spent about a year and a half there working with them, and we felt our time was done there, and so we're headed out to Boise. But while I was there, I've been writing for about 7 years at various blogs, a lot about theology. Welcome, Thomas.
Yeah, hey, Thomas. We went ahead and got started. We're doing a little intro. I'll MC this, so just follow my lead.
And I'm reading the sidebar here.
Oh boy! Oh, see, you could do that. I did that the other day on an interview I was doing.
Already some
and I was completely I lost where I was going, so I can't do that.
So I've been writing for 7 years. I've wrote at various blogs. The most recent one that came out of DC was a blog called The Whole Man, and that's where I do most of my writing. I also write at brucepagano.com. So I have a degree in Christian ministry and human resource management. So I've not used either one of those. So I just evidently like spending money on degrees.
Yeah. Welcome to the club.
Yeah. So I'm married. I have 4 kids. I have an 18-year-old. I know I don't look that old, but I have a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, all boys, and then a 1-year-old daughter. Tomorrow she'll be 1.
Awesome.
So my big things right now, I kind of fancy myself an author to be. I'm working on a couple book projects. That's it. Actually, in a week, I should hear back on one of them. So
sweet. And for people listening and people watching on the Blab or people listening later in the podcast, as we update stuff, we have an about page. It's The Odd Show with a G, theoddshow.com, and you can go to the about page. And if we're publishing stuff or the other places where we actually publish our stuff, there will be links to that.
Yeah.
So Thomas, why don't you tell the entire world that is watching you right now, tell everybody who you are, where, if you're writing somewhere, or what you're all about in less than a minute.
Things are working, kind of. I'm a writer. Ish, blogger ish. Most of what I do is help people do simple church, which is okay. This is gonna be a problem, guys.
No, don't worry about the video so much, Thomas. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal.
All right.
We'll have the video fixed for the next time, but as I said, 99% of the people are going to listen to this on the audio. So we have decent audio until I convince you guys to buy microphones, and then we'll have great audio.
I'm getting one for Christmas. Anyway,
beautiful. So Thomas, continue.
What I mostly do is help people plant simple churches or become a simple church, sit down in small groups and explain the process, mostly to de-churched and unchurched people. So, of course, de-churched would be people who have done church for a while and are tired of it, or want to do something else or want to try something else and willing to try something else, sit down and walk through that process with them as other people walk through the process with me. And that's mostly what I do. Not as much on the internet as much these days. I'm mostly, if I'm on the internet, it's usually for research for classes and stuff like that.
Awesome. And that electronic mail thing.
Right.
Well, and as I had mentioned, it's got to be a little bit about me here, right? I'm Rocco DeLeo. I've got 5 kids. I live in Southern California. It was a very freezing 57 degrees today. It was ridiculously cold.
It's 26 here. Thank you.
Yeah. It was very, very cold today.
Oh man, it's a harsh 84 right now. Oh no, I think it would drop down to 79.
Yeah. So Thomas is in Florida, and Bruce is, where are you again?
I'm in Wyoming, but we're headed to Boise after the holidays. So
there we go. So I have a podcast, and Dad Makes Heaven podcast. I blog at roccodeleo.com about very similar stuff that we're going to talk about here, about being a dad and a busy guy who's reconnecting with my Christianity, reconnecting with Jesus. The Christianity thing is part of that, but reconnecting with Jesus. So that's it. And we're going to get to know each other, and the audience is going to get to know us as we start talking, and a little bit of context, and then we'll get into the topics. For people who don't know, Bruce and Thomas are BFFs, or they love and hate each other sometimes, but they've known each other for a while. I met Bruce. I interviewed him for my podcast like 2 weeks ago, and we just kind of connected and said, hey, let's do this.
Sure.
So I'm the odd man out, but somehow I got invited into this group. So, there we go. So we've got 3 topics that we're going to try to cover today. I think my topic is probably a little bit easier to get through.
Yeah. I think
so maybe we'll start with that, and then we'll get to Thomas, and I think we can get through it all. We'll watch the clock. We'll try not to make this thing go into Christmas. I know tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so that would be a long episode. So what I wanted to talk about here, and again, for context, we're just going to kind of go through some topics and what we've been working on, but is this idea of having a transactional relationship with Jesus. And part of my story is I grew up Catholic. And again, I want to definitely caveat this. I always caveat this, that I am not bashing the Catholic Church. I love the Catholic Church. I am not going to the Catholic Church, but this is not an anti-Catholic thing. This is. What's that, Thomas?
I might be moving over there.
Yeah. Thomas, make sure you're not covering your microphone. It doesn't work when you're covering your microphone.
Oh. Okay.
There we go. It was like muffled. Maybe it wasn't his microphone. This transactional relationship that I've had with Jesus for so long, and I just grew up with this idea of just checking the box. Like, you've got to do this, and this. You go to mass on Sunday, you go to confession on Saturday, and you do this, you do that, and everything's good. And you just kind of get used to that. You kind of get used to looking to God as a almost like an angry father, or an angry
taskmaster, like a taskmaster.
Yeah. And after 39 years of that, like, wow, I see other people within the Catholic Church or outside of the Catholic Church who have these great relationships with Jesus that I want. And I was struggling with that, and I just couldn't connect. I couldn't have this relationship with Jesus. And I found myself through some family issues. My wife was in rehab for some substance abuse, and I'm allowed to say that publicly. So people are like, "Oh my God, he just told the whole world." You're on the internet; people can hear you. We went through some stuff this summer as a family, and I tried to control it all. I tried to take all of it, and going through stuff like that when you don't really have a relationship with Jesus, for me, like I can't do it anymore. So finally, I just said, Jesus, take the wheel, right? Jesus, take over. I need.
I don't know if you can say that. Don't say that. Just whatever you want.
I knew it was coming. I felt it coming.
No, go ahead. Jesus, take the wheel. He was.
I'm not making out what Thomas is saying, but I think it was something funny. You laughed. So I'll go. I'll go with,
The wheel.
Jesus, take the wheel. Do you want me to sing it?
No, he sang it for you.
No.
Jesus, take the wheel. I don't even know. So, you know, I and this is really still an ongoing theme of what I'm dealing with. And as I grow, as my relationship grows with Jesus, I still feel this, that I still get caught up in this. Now I'm in the Protestant checking the boxes.
Right.
I just thought, you know, I remember going to this non-denominational church I went to that I'd never gone. I'd never gone to anything but a Catholic church. And my wife drags me into Cornerstone, and I'm like, you know, the first thing I did, I'm like, where's the crucifix? You know, where's, you know, Thomas is on a roller coaster.
They lost the crucifix.
Yeah, where's the crucifix? I remember I walked in, so I go into this church, and you know, Catholic church is very reverent and statues and stained glass and all this. And I go into this, is basically an auditorium, and I'm like, I'm not gonna like this. I'm not gonna sing. And of course, everyone there is way more alive than I've ever seen. It's like, you know, wow, Jesus is alive. You know, it's like so cool. But I'm like, And about 5 minutes of that, I started breaking down like, oh, this is okay. I'm kind of digging this. And I'm looking around, and, you know, the people kind of look like me. They're my age, you know, they're not like 85. Right. So it's kind of cool. And, you know, and so I've been connecting. That's like what I'm saying here. I've been connecting differently. But as I've been going there for about 6-7 months now, I am noticing that there is a Protestant checking of the box, just like there was a Catholic checking of the box. You know, it's just different. It's more of, I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I read my Bible, and then I go out and curse my neighbor, you know, but I check that box. So, and I'm catching myself.
Know there was a box that we're checking, cursing our neighbor. Yeah. I missed that.
So I you know, the honeymoon
it's on the back of the don't go back there. A lot of people don't get all the way back there.
The neighbor.
Yeah. So I notice, so the honeymoon is somewhat ending, right? The new church and this new feeling and this new, apparently I'm saved. So everything's good. I'm going to heaven no matter what. So that's good, right? You know, like, okay, well then, can I do whatever I want? You know, we'll talk about salvation later. Thomas will teach us about salvation when he has a better internet connection.
None of us are saved.
So I, like, for me, we started going to church when I was 12, and that's when I said the prayer, you know, the prayer that gets you in.
Yeah. That still makes me feel that's like very non-Catholic. So this Catholic guy still is like kind of weirded out by that.
Right. Did you say the prayer?
You know what? I said the prayer when I went to a Baptist college, and they made me say the prayer.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't know. I
forced you to get saved. That's awesome.
Maybe I'm not saved.
No. Like,
should I get saved right here on the program? And now we lost Bruce. Or did we lose me? And are you guys there? Am I?
I can hear you.
I know.
You.
Yeah. So
Bruce has the face right now.
I froze.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm
as
back.
God was going, you guys are not taking this serious.
You're
enough.
saved.
You
I
guys
don't know what
are making
happened. I
fun
don't know
of
why
me.
I froze.
And God was like, I'm messing with your internet connection. Yeah. No.
So yeah, probably should not make this a joke. No, so for like from the age of 12, like that's when I said the prayer. Like for the next 20 years, I grew up in. You don't watch rated R movies. You don't listen to secular music, which I wasn't going to listen to Christian music, so I didn't know what music to listen to. But I grew up in that time where the church was very much like being a Christian is following these rules. And it very much what, you know, like for that 20 years, I wouldn't have said I was checking boxes, but I thought I was a good Christian because I went to church on Sunday.
Man.
I went to church on Wednesday. I was in church twice a week.
Bonus points.
I mean, if you're not like, that's a good Christian, right? Yeah, and I was like, by the time Thomas met me, I was going to
like an angel,
young married couple small group. Like, man, I was on it. Yeah, almost. I mean, like, and then when it all came tumbling down,
Uh-oh.
and
Wait, no.
I'm
divorced
divorced.
people on our show.
We'll probably talk about that at some point. I'm divorced. I'm all angel. Yeah. So Thomas is the only one not divorced. So Thomas is probably the only one going to
Our
heaven.
prayers aren't worth anything, so we might as well not pray for you.
Nice. But when it all came tumbling down, I actually, because of the 20 years previous to that, thought that I had marked the boxes so well that when bad things happened, I was like, I'm done. God, I don't know where you're at, but I have been a good Christian and I am out. And I was done. I was done. And it was only for the sake, like for the sake of my kid, my 9-year-old came and was like, Daddy, are we going to church? And I was like, yes. I don't want to ruin your view of things yet. So we went, and like I started realizing relationship over religion and the importance of that. And it really is. I know people say that, like people say relationship. It's about relationship.
Now,
not
you wrote
religion.
a post about this, right?
I think
okay.
it's both. And Thomas and I have talked about this a lot.
Was it about getting your hands dirty?
I did.
Stained by the world?
I don't remember what it was called.
Okay. I'll put a link in the show notes to that.
Oh yeah. Stained by the world. And basically what I said in that is, in the book of James, he does talk about religion that's pure and undefiled before God, and it's visiting widows and orphans in their affliction, keeping yourself unstained by the world. But he only talks about that in context after relationship. Like, he only brings that up because religion is the outworking of our relationship with God. Like, religion is where we get to do those things.
But if you don't have that relationship,
our relationship with God compels us to do.
It could be trouble. Because it's a safety. It's like a safety net. And so we were talking in our pre-show the other day, and I couldn't remember what this thing was called. It was called an impure form of security. Sometimes you need to let go of an impure form of security to grab a hold of a pure form of insecurity. So this is what, so right now we're reading in our men's group, we're reading this book called 6 Rules Every Man Must Break by Bill Perkins. And most of who I talk to, I think there's men and women on here, but most of I think of I relate obviously to men more than women. Call me crazy. And we all have, everybody has their own struggles that we deal with. And I just want to read a little bit from here. And this really, it hits home because we talked about this last week in our Bible study. So this is, he says, Jesus says, this isn't quoting. I have Jesus recorded somewhere, but I don't have the recording. From now on, I want you to stop fighting to please God by trying to improve yourself and defeat your evil urges. Instead, rely on the fact that as long as we're connected, this is Jesus talking to his disciples, and we will always be connected, I'll work in you and through you to accomplish my purposes. So instead of fighting to become someone you'll never be and striving to accomplish what you can't achieve, give up and relax and rely on me. So this is the author here interpreting and kind of talking about, this is John 15:5. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, he bears much fruit, for apart from me, you can do nothing. So that was the translation, basically, kind of like how he interpreted it. And boy, we talked for an hour and a half on this, on letting go. And this guy's talking about breaking rules, right? We're supposed to fight to try to be perfect. And there's a balance there because we can't just say, well, I can't be perfect, so I'm going to do whatever I want. That doesn't work. But we have to relax and rely on Jesus. And that's where the relationship comes in. And I have to just keep remembering that I can't do anything without Jesus. I can't be good without Jesus.
So, yeah. So I love my peeps. I love my Christians. I'm for them. But one of the things that frustrates me so much about Christians is this idea that and they probably, like most would probably never say it out loud, but this idea that they're an independent person, like I'm independent, I don't need anybody, and that's not Christianity. Like Christianity in and of itself says that you're wholly dependent on Jesus. Like you're wholly dependent on God. Like there's nothing you can do for yourself, and the predicament you're in without God. Now, I'll caveat that by saying there are people that don't believe in God. There are people that don't believe in Jesus and who he says he was, and they live amazing lives. They do amazing things. They love their family well. They're a good husband. They're a good father. They would never cheat on their spouse. They're successful.
A lot of them
they
give
make
back,
money.
give charity.
And they do good things. Like they have foundations and charity. They're philanthropists. They absolutely. I'm not saying that Jesus is required for you to be able to do good.
No, that makes sense.
I'm not saying that. Like not at all. However, I've seen it. I think there's a threshold to that. Like there's this deeper understanding that comes. And for me, I know that.
No, that's okay.
I like it. Like for me, when I crossed that, like when I started becoming dependent on a relationship with God and trying to have the character of Christ revealed in me, I was able to kind of step over this threshold into a confidence. Like I don't know how people that don't have hope beyond this world deal with death.
I wouldn't be able to function.
I don't understand it. Like I'm not able to comprehend it. And I know there's people that say religion is created out of that need. I just don't see it. Like, so anyway, I'm not saying that Jesus is required to do good. I know plenty of people that do good.
But Jesus is required to go to heaven.
They don't have Jesus.
And that may be a crazy statement that may piss people off, but that's the core of Christianity, to go to heaven, at least from our beliefs. That's not me saying, I'm going to get in trouble.
So yeah, so
that's not me saying I'm sending you to hell. I'm like,
no, and yeah, that's true. I think that's part of those boxes, though. Like when our end becomes, like our end should be heaven, but when our end dictates how we live right now, like Christianity is not about getting to heaven, because if it was, I'm done. You're done. We're done. Like I don't need to be good necessarily. Like I don't need to do good because I'm going to heaven. And it's so much more than that. Like following Jesus, and we can get into this when we talk about Syrian refugees.
Let's go there.
I'm excited to talk about that.
Let's go to, you want to kind of segue there?
Like, it infuriates me that there are Christians that, not that our safety is not important, but it infuriates me that there are other organizations that are not Christian based that are doing more for Syrian refugees, and not just Syrian refugees, all refugees, all people in need. There are organizations doing more than many Christians. And when our number one concern is, and this is probably going to cause some debate, but when our response as Christians is for our safety more than widows and orphans, that's not Christ. And that's not the Christianity that I understand the way the Bible presents it. And it makes me mad. It makes me ashamed. and it's not
So
Christian. Like it's not
what
Christian.
we're hearing a lot of, and I know you're seeing a lot more of the news and stuff than I am. Sometimes I feel like I'm locked up in this dungeon in here. You had a great. I did watch your video you put on the whole man, your commentary on this. That there are a lot of people, and I did tell you that there was somebody on my Facebook who was like very angry that there was a church local, like, oh, it's the end of the world. We're taking this church is going to take like a family, and the frustration or the anger or the fear, right? This is what the enemy is using is fear. The fear is that ISIS or terrorists or whoever is gonna Trojan horse. I think I've heard that. And I'm a Republican and I do watch Fox News. And I've heard people that I typically agree with use the term a Trojan horse, right? This is a Trojan horse and they're going to come. You know what? If they do, I'm just glad I'm not the one that has to make these decisions because you can't win for losing, right? So I always think if you can't win for losing, this is a no win. I'm doing the finger quotes here. The no win situation. Do we let in refugees and then we open ourselves up to this higher risk, or do we leave them out and then we're just not being very Christian like? That Jesus trumps everything. You know, what would Jesus do? Jesus, in the Bible. It's pretty clear. And it's not a very gray area, right? I mean, it's pretty clear that we have to help. We don't have to be stupid about it. We don't have to be just go not check anybody's backgrounds or not do any of that stuff. But we have to do everything we can to help people.
Yeah. And I'm for that. I'm for that. Do background checks. But like, it frustrates me because Christians should be the most charitable people ever, like the most loving and giving and welcoming people. Like Christianity should your decision to follow Christ should compel you towards those that need compassion. And do background check. That's our government's job. Like our government should be doing that as a matter of them doing their job because that's what they were hired, elected for. But our job, look, I read the Bible and I don't see a lot of concern for personal safety.
Yes.
Like, every single one, and I said this in my blog, every single apostle sans John ends up exiled on an island off the coast of Greece, which
I know.
To me, I'm like, that seems like it'd be really sweet. Like,
it wasn't very creative with the titles of his books.
He wrote a couple books. It's in the Mediterranean off the coast of Greece. Like, how bad could it be? But I mean, it was exile too. So, but he had people visiting him too.
And he got mail.
How bad an exile is that?
I'm here.
Is your stuff working or no?
Yeah, Thomas is going to be.
I can't even.
Thomas is going to be our moderator for the. So we're kind of working this on the fly. Thomas can go ahead and be our moderator in the discussion forums there, and we'll do his top. We'll figure out the technology and we'll do his topic on our next episode.
Sure, but my point is I don't see a lot of personal concern for personal safety. Like what I do see a lot of are people for the sake of the gospel and for the sake of the poor and the sake of the needy, going to these people, trying to give them something that they believe that they need, trying to serve them and love them and get collections for the poor and the needy, and being murdered for it. Being thrown off of buildings and stoned and hot oil poured on their body and chopped in half and beheaded and crucified. And that's what I see. And not once ever do they say, matter of fact, Paul says, every time that I go to a new place, the Holy Spirit tells me that prison and affliction awaits me, yet I still go. Like, and how come why is that not our response as Christians? Why is our response like, let them come here? I'll second amend them right into hell. Yeah. Like, whoa.
Man, I wish Thomas is, I can see him laughing. It's great. This is good stuff. Yeah, and of course we're talking about Christians. We're not talking about the government. We're not talking to the government should do. We're talking like what you're seeing other Christians saying and other Christians' response.
Right.
So you sign up to be a Christian. You don't have to sign up to be a Christian, but when you sign up to be a Christian, and then you're like, oh, I want to be a Christian. I'm a Christian, and then you act in ways that are just really not Christian-y, Christian-like. Yeah, and I sense your frustration there, and I probably wasn't as emotional as you were, but it you're right. It's a challenge, and I think a lot of people they don't think about that because they haven't. Maybe they haven't connected the dots here that Christianity isn't just singing songs on Sunday. It's getting bloody. It's getting hurt. It's putting yourself out there.
So, yeah.
Oh yes.
Can I bring up
we got.
Starbucks
I was going to talk about this with Thomas's thing.
I think that was just a ploy by Starbucks, and they probably paid that crazy guy in Arizona to do the crazy stuff he's done. And I think I don't know if it was real or not, but what it did do is it caused like all these Christians to be like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just a red cup and blah. Anyway,
I got sucked right into it.
all of that.
Oh man, I feel like a.
Yeah. I just think that like we watch Christians get their heads cut off on the shore of the Mediterranean by ISIS, and then we get pissed off when Starbucks removes Christmas from their cup. And I'm like, and
I
know
actually
Rocco,
was thinking more from a marketing point of view. And I thought they were completely removing Christmas. And really I was like, oh man, I get a warm and fuzzy when I go. There's one at the Temecula Mall that's got a fireplace in it.
But I mean, like, let's be honest, red and green, their logo's green. Their
yeah.
are red.
Yeah. And
that's pretty Christmas.
They have a right to do whatever they want.
And they're white, red, green, and white. I mean, like they're either Italian or they're Christmas.
Yeah,
I mean,
Italian
like, and I'm good with both. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So my point is like we call that persecution, and we watch people get their heads cut off.
And people have no idea.
You know what I'm saying? And for me, like Jeff here on the side panel said something earlier about I'm really concerned most with the time I have here as a living being, and I want to make the most of it. So for me, Christians, that's our job. Like heaven is like the later is awesome. Like I can't wait till heaven comes. There's a book on it. Not the 190 minutes in heaven. That's not the one I'm talking about. The Bible.
I know, man.
Man, I wish Thomas had audio.
This is actually our purgatory. I know that I guess we're not Catholic here, but this is our purgatory. Having all these great things to talk about, and knowing that Thomas has all those wonderful things to say, and we can't hear him. I don't
know what happened to his mic.
Yeah.
That looked like I have nothing good to say.
So for those of you listening and watching, Thomas actually adds so much to this conversation, but we're not canceling because we have to talk about this. This is the show must go on.
Right. So yeah, the show must go on. So my point is like what Jeff was saying, like our job as Christians should be the concern for now, like the life that we're living now. There's this like we're given time to, while we're on this earth, to be good stewards of what we're given and to be love to other people, like to be compassionate to other people, to be generous to other people. And when I do that, like my hope is that it's without exception, that it's without expectation. Like if I give to you, if I love you, if I'm your friend, I don't expect for you to get saved. Like I'm not your friend with that expectation. Do I hope it? Absolutely. Like I hope, my desire is that you would come into the fullness of Christ. Like there's just something different about it. And I know that there are Christians that don't exude that. Like I know that there are Christians that people look at them and they're like, man, I don't want your hope because I hope that I'm never like that.
Those are like
and
the Pharisees,
that makes me sad.
right?
Like
Is
that makes me
kind
sad.
of what you were?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it's also like we get a bad rap because they attach people like Westboro Baptist to us, and those are not Christians. Those are crazy wackos that hate people, and that's not like they can call themselves Christian, but I mean, like I can call myself a Buddhist and not do anything that Buddhists do. So, but my point is like our concern should be for the now. Like we should want to live this life as full as possible, like to the most that we can. And as a Christian, that means ultimately being concerned with other people's success over ours, like the lifting up of others over ourselves. Like, and not that we think less of ourselves, like not that we not that we're Debbie Downers or that we're like self.
Well, it made me think of something when I had first started in the men's group at the non-denominational church, and I'm like, okay, so there's this whole being saved, and now we're guaranteed heaven. So my history in the Catholic Church, it wasn't that, right? You could lose your salvation, and this may not be the best theology here, but the way I understood it is you could lose it. And or you have time in purgatory, but you could, if you died in a state of mortal sin, and literally not going to mass on Sunday is a mortal sin. So if you could go to mass and you didn't go to mass, that's a mortal sin, and you, by letter of the law, you could go to hell. So you could lose your salvation without going to confession. You have to go for a mortal sin in the Catholic Church. You have to go to confession, and that was a lot of pressure. I felt a lot of pressure so the focus for me was always trying to, as I said earlier, trying to be this thing that I can never be, trying to be perfect, because I can't always get to confession on Saturday because I've got kids and I've got this and it's hard. And what if I commit a bad sin on Tuesday and I don't have confession until Saturday and I get hit by a bus on Thursday? I'm going to hell no matter what I did. And it was hard. It was really difficult to do. So I take this into meeting with these guys at the non-denominational church and say, okay, so what do I do now? If I'm guaranteed heaven, what do I do now? What's the point of all this? And the point now is instead of having to stress over going to heaven or hell now, we get to work on having joy living in the presence of Jesus and living in the church with other people. And we can focus on that rather than trying to stay out of trouble.
And I think we've lost that. It is that. It's absolutely that. Like we've lost this idea that Christianity, more and more, I'm convinced that Christianity in and of itself is not. So it's not built to get us to heaven just to get us to heaven. Christianity, like Christ came to reconcile us into communion with God, which means being reconciled into communion with other believers, with the purpose of reconciling all things to himself, like reconciling creation to himself. But more and more, I'm coming to believe that like our ability to walk through life has to be in the context of people. Like I need community, and I know that's a huge buzzword in the church. I'm not sure.
That's okay.
I was reading the sidebar.
Well, community, it is a buzzword, but
because I so badly want
it's the thing keeping me going right now.
But it's a real thing. Like it's important, right? Like the idea of I need to be in communion with other people that will love me regardless of my faults, that will encourage me, that will challenge me, and that will grieve with me and celebrate with me, and that are genuine. And I've had good friendships. Like I've had good friendships before church, before I was dedicated to following Jesus. I had good friendships. I had deep friendships, but I've not ever had deeper friendships than when they were centered on the person of Christ. Like my ability to love better my ability to love was made better when I grounded it in the person of Jesus. Like, so as we walk through life, like life is made to be in communion with people. Like we're relational creatures. Like my desire to walk through life with other people, is greater than it's ever been in my life. And I've seen deeper connections and people that were hurt, like loved on and taken care of. People that were celebrating, like they were able to come and celebrate.
It's truly profound. There's my echo.
It's truly profound.
It's well, microphone. So it's truly profound to have Jesus at the center of all of our relationships. How he does, how everything just connects better. It just makes more sense. I'm rambling here, but it just makes more sense. And we talked about this on our I think it was our interview we did for my other show. But we talked about my wife and I, how we stopped looking at each other and we decided to turn and look at Jesus together, and we sort of see each other through Jesus, and how that everything goes through Jesus. It makes more sense. And I don't know. I don't know how to. I have a hard time talking to non-believers, not because I don't love non-believers, but I'm like, don't you get it? Don't you feel it? I don't understand. I don't understand how people who don't believe don't get it, because it just seems like it's so ingrained in me.
So, right. I don't know who you're talking to, Jeff. So over the last couple of years,
this is the sidebar. It's distracting. It's very distracting. It's okay. So we have.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's okay. We've had a lot of moving parts. We've got a lot more people on here, and then Thomas bouncing off with the technology. That's okay. And for the people listening on the podcast later in the future, this is a blab, and we are reading. We try the best we can to read from the sidebar if it fits into the conversation, but sometimes it doesn't, and it's hard to follow, especially when there's only two of us here.
Right. So you were talking about though that.
Yeah, so my wife and I,
your wife,
and this is Christian marriage, Christian relationships, that we're looking to Jesus instead of to each other.
Looking at right. So, man, I totally forgot.
No, that's it. Oh, this is great. I love it. I love it. So we don't have the Reach Records conversation. We'll get to that on our next show. What else do we have here? We're not going to just drag this on just to drag it on. I
remember what I was going to say. So you were talking about the ability.
Oh, yeah. I struggle with that. Again, not out of disrespect. I just I don't know how to do it.
Right. So over the last few years, here's kind of where I'm at. If you read, I don't remember where it is exactly. I could look it up here. But somewhere in the book of John, Jesus is talking about, I think we talked about it last time, but Jesus talks about that the world's sin is unbelief, and that it's the Holy Spirit who comes and convicts the world of their unbelief and leads them into all truth. Right. So more and more, I believe when Jesus said, "Be my witnesses, go make disciples," he was not saying take this book of scripture and tell everybody what they're doing wrong. Tell them how bad of sinners they are. Go tell them that they're drunkards. Because if you read the New Testament, all of it's written to Christians. Like all the epistles, everyone that has the name of one of the apostles, or someone they're writing to, or a church they're writing it to, it's written to Christians. So they're telling Christians, stop being drunks.
Right.
Stop fornicating. Stop doing these things. They're not telling unbelievers. They're telling people who say, I believe in Jesus. I'm going to follow Jesus. I want the gospel. And they're telling them to stop doing this stuff. So more and more I'm starting, I feel like the right way to do this, and maybe I'm way off base. Our job is not to speak to people's, what we perceive as their sin, like whether they're adulterous or liars or whatever. Our job is to act as like, be led to act as much like Jesus as possible so that people see him in us, and that's what they ask about. And then we get to tell them about him, not tell them about their sin, not tell them about what we think they're doing wrong, or how they mistreat so-and-so, or how they act at work, that they shouldn't curse or smoke or drink or whatever we deem as sin. In the 80s,
I smoke cigars, and I have been known to say a few bad words, but not on the air.
That's okay. Catholics are allowed to smoke cigars and drink.
Well, no smoking in church.
Growing up, that's what I remember. So I think Christians we're not commissioned to tell people what they're sinful,
right,
like what sin they're committing. What we are commissioned to do is act so much like Jesus that that's who people see, and then through building relationship, they ask us about that. Then the Holy Spirit, not us, like, it's not my job to convince you that Jesus is real.
Yeah,
there's somebody else that does that with the Holy Spirit. He comes, convicts of unbelief, and deals with that, and then whatever God speaks to you in that, through the Bible, through Christian community, is what it means to live out Christ. But my job is not to take an atheist and be like, "Hey, here's why you're wrong." Because you'll just be a
typical angry Christian, and it'll just be this debate. Like, I just want to love on everybody. I've got a good friend I spent a lot of time with, and he's sort of an agnostic or whatever. And you just live it. That's how I feel. That's the best way I could do. I can't convince people. I just want to be like, hey, I can go to church and I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to fall, but I'm going to show you that I can pick myself back up because I have Jesus there helping me pick myself back up. And I'm going to have a smile on my face and be a Christian. And the Holy Spirit will do the rest, I guess,
Right. And that's the thing, Lively Debate said, like, and I did already say it, like, I've already said that, that
there's
see
a 3% chance this is going to work.
Goodness.
Hey,
hey, there's Thomas. We're almost done.
You have to put on headphones.
No. What at Lively Debate Carlton said was that I've already said, and I did. I've said that I've seen people that aren't Christians love their wife well, and they're good fathers, and they're generous, and they like and they do.
Some
good
of them
things.
are even better people than me. Many of them are.
Yes.
Not you. I mean, you're
better
perfect.
than you.
You're an angel. You're angelic.
No, please. He's lying to everybody. Thomas,
I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Thomas, can you hear me?
What?
I can hear you.
I can't hear a word.
Oh, Thomas, we love you anyways.
I'm awesome.
So what I am saying though is it falls on belief. Like, I believe, I've seen it in my life, I've seen it in other people's lives. I believe that the God that I believe in is true, is real. It exists. I believe that Jesus came, that Jesus died for my sins, that I need him. Like, I believe that.
Yeah.
And there's something different when that's revealed to you. Like I can do all the good things in the world, but when there's Christ in it and it's genuine, it's different. Like, there's just something different. And I don't know, like it's not my job to convince people. Like, it's my job to love people. It's my job to be generous. It's my job to reflect Christ. It's my job that, like, and not only my job, my pleasure.
That's the thing. I use the word joy, but the pleasure or whatever it is, it should be. Most of the time, and it's going to hurt sometimes, but there's this joy in doing God's work and having that connection with him by doing his work. And You know, that's what God wants us to do. And when he says, hey, we're going to give you heaven. We died so you go to heaven. Now let's have a good time here on earth by being joyful and helping each other, helping other people see that it's cool. It could be cool to be a Christian. It's cool to be a Christian. That's a t-shirt. Got the t-shirt.
Yeah.
So where are we with Thomas here?
Hey, you can hear me. I can somewhat hear you. Right?
Yeah, you know, Thomas, the audio is so bad. We have such a great topic. We're going to talk. We maybe will hop on a Google Hangout in the next couple days, and I'll add that video or that audio to the podcast so we can get that topic out. But it's not going to work right now. It's just going to be too hard to hear, and it won't be engaging. So, we can talk about that off the air, and we can add that to the audio. It's not hard to do. Because I really want to hear what you have to say, and I know it's a hot topic. So we'll figure out our schedules.
Reach records. The play is crazy.
So
yeah, I think it's
are we getting ready to wrap it up? We're wrapping it up. So before I go, here's what I want to everyone that's listening. So I don't have it figured out. Like,
hold on. I'm gonna figure out. I'm muting Thomas. There we go. I muted you, Thomas. Sorry, you were getting feedback, but you can hang out. Go ahead, Bruce.
There are probably atheists that could run laps around me in a theological debate. And I went to seminary. I'm actually in seminary right now. So I don't know if I should admit that, but I know that there are people that are wiser than me, that are smarter than me, that are more well-read than me, that read Nietzsche and Barth, like all those people. I'm not here, like this podcast isn't here to debate the reality of Christ. Like, here's what you guys need to know. The three of us believe Christ is who he said he is. The three of us have committed to living our lives in a way that reflects his goodness and the goodness of God. We're not trying to convince anybody of anything. What we are trying to do is we're real life, like people dying and war and like all this garbage that happens, and all the good that happens when that comes together. Like, how does Christianity, a Christian worldview, fit into those things?
That makes sense. Because again, here as we wrap up here, it's not that easy to just plug it in and like this whole Christian the refugee thing, because again, as we talk, and of course we make it sound so, of course we should let them in. That's the Christian thing to do. But and of course, people who are on the outside who don't quite understand that, who don't have that Christianity or have that Christian sense, or even some of the Christians who don't quite get it. It's did I lose my train of thought? That it's easier said than done. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's easy for us on our podcast here to sit here in the comfort of our homes to say we should let all the refugees in. Odds are you and I are not going to have to feed any of them, pay any money to help them, and odds are neither one of us are going to get blown up by one of them if they're a terrorist. But that doesn't take away the fact that we are trying to do the best we can when we're sitting here talking about it, saying that we should help them. That is the Christian thing to do.
Right.
Now, if somebody came to me and said, okay, Rocco, we are going to help out people. I live in Lake Elsinore, and we just need you to pay $5,000 for the magic gate to open up to let them in. I would probably say no. I'm admitting it, that I just I would go to my greed and I would say no, but I would hope that I would say yes. But this is what we're doing. This is what the community, talking to people like you and Thomas and other people, and going to church and my men's group, that we learn to try to open our mind up. And that's it. I got nothing left.
Yeah.
So should we take any? Do we have time to maybe engage with anyone, or let?
We can probably spend a couple minutes if we want.
So and then we'll figure out getting Thomas in here with. So we'll figure out how to get his topic in, because I think that's a great. I think that goes along well with the Starbucks thing. So let's have Jeff jump in here. I'm going to let him in just one at a time because this is hard enough. Let's see if he can jump in here. We have.
Oh, hello. Hey.
Jeff, how are you, man?
I'm great.
Hey, Jeff.
Thanks for a great show. I was commenting a lot on the side, and I thought if you would have me on, I would make some additional comments. And I'll apologize for my video in advance. Apparently it lags on here for some reason. I'm not sure why. But
you have good audio, and that's more important.
Yeah, I have great audio. So
what we'll do is we won't look at him when he talks because it gets confusing.
Yeah.
Like an old kung fu movie.
Yeah. I have not figured it out. I don't know why that's the case. It works on Google Hangouts, but not on here so much. But anyway.
So where are you from? And if you do any online work, what's your website?
No, I just go on other people's online stuff. I don't really have a website, but I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, and about 40 miles out. I'm near Baltimore as well. And so that's where I am.
Oh, cool.
It's a lovely 60-degree day here, beautiful sunny day. So looking forward to the holidays as well.
Nice.
No, I appreciated the conversation. I made some comments on the side. I have some sort of political views about the refugee situation that are really apart from my views on religion and stuff like that. But as you probably picked up from the conversation, I am an atheist. I don't have anything against people who are religious, and I understand that religion offers numerous benefits to people. And I myself indulge in things that I don't really have scientific basis for that I think help my life. I've engaged in certain dietary practices that have helped me lose weight and stuff like that. I don't know what the scientific basis of those things are necessarily, but they kind of work for me. So I respect that. But I will say, on the other hand, that sometimes when things work for me, I have to think, well, are those things really true, and are they universally applicable? And so I kind of I'm hesitant to endorse everything that works for me and get and suggest it for other people. And so I kind of think that's the kind of caveat, whether you're pushing a religion or whatever, things that mean a lot to you, which I respect. But if they mean a lot to you, that doesn't mean that we still, I think, have to have a respect for what's true or false. And so I don't think that should be entirely out of the conversation. I know being religious has helped people out in certain ways, whether short term or whatever. And I don't mean to sound patronizing, but sometimes whether or not it's actual truth when it's argued in that way, I don't know that it's helpful to put it forth as being actually true. And and that goes for any other religion, not just Christianity. But
yeah. So Jeff, we definitely appreciate it, and it's awesome to have, I guess, hold us accountable here, right? Keep us honest with. We want to be respectful of everybody, and I hope we are, and I hope we're not patronizing or patronizing anybody who's not believing. Our main audience really. I think, and maybe the audience will change on us a little bit, but my thought is I'm speaking more to believers and trying to figure out how to be happier as believers. There are people that have a gift or have a calling to go and try to get people who are not believers. That's less of what I'm trying to do. And I think, Bruce, you're probably in that same area. We talk to believers because it's hard enough to figure out how to figure ourselves out than to try to get everybody else in.
No, I respect that. Yeah. I hesitated to join in as well. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're welcome. No, you're welcome to be here.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't hope that people get saved and become Christians. Like, I do. Like, that's a desire that I have. However, I desire more. Not more. I desire the kind of where I focus my desire more is that Christians would be good Christians, like that they would be good reflections of the character of Christ. Like that's what I desire more. And I believe that when that happens and that character is revealed, that's what's attractive. And that's what like if we're not making Christ attractive in the way that we behave and act and love people and care for people and compassionate, then we're not doing what we're called to do as believers. And it really does come down to belief, like whether or not you believe that there's nothing, or I believe that there's a God that's in complete control of everything and omnipotent over everything. It's belief. It's all belief. I grew up in a church that pushed belief. Like, if you don't believe this, no good for you. Like, you're bad. You're going to hell. I grew up in a church that multiple churches that kind of did a poor job in explaining what it meant to disciple someone and to once someone confesses their belief in Christ, like trying to help them figure out what it means to live as a Christian, because we do a bad job about that. Like, we just, hey, you got saved, awesome, you said the prayer,
Yeah.
don't smoke cigarettes, and and that's not it. Like, it's not it. It's hard, and it's hard. Like living this way is hard, and even if you don't believe in God, doing good things is hard, because it's like, I know some may argue, but it goes against our nature to self-preserve. Like if a good thing butts up against me protecting myself in the natural, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm just not. Like, and Christianity, Christ calls us beyond that. And that's my frustration. Like, that's who I'm trying to talk to. Like, guys, if we're going to say we're Christians,
yeah, and whatever it
act.
is within you that makes you want to do the right thing, that's great. I did stumble when somebody said, Rocco said, that because they were Christian, that they were doing good things, and I kind of thought, I think if Rocco was not a Christian, he would still do good things. If you found out that God didn't exist, or Jesus didn't exist, or wasn't the Son of God, I think you two would still do great things. And that's why I don't want to diminish that from you. And I, as an atheist, if I were to find out that there was a God, I would worship him if I thought he was a good God. And so I would kind of do similar things that I'm doing now, albeit with this new God. He would probably make me think of things in ways that I hadn't thought of them before. But I think you can be a good person with or without a deity, and I don't think if you were to find out that your God didn't exist, I don't think you would be bad people just from listening to you. I think you would still be great people, and you would still want to make the world a better place than you found it to be, even if you weren't going to be around to see that. And so that's why that kind of motivated
That's awesome.
me.
I definitely take that as a compliment. I don't know that I'd be a good person or not. It's hard enough, and just looking at that Bible every day, it's super.
I can tell you I was a jerk.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So
I did good things because, like, I volunteered for things, but like, I was a jerk.
Well,
God keeps me accountable.
I'm a person who is. Anybody who knows me will say that I'm. Hopefully, they will just say that I'm occasionally a jerk, but I am often. I certainly. I think I was probably more of a jerk in my youth, and for me, that was more of an, more of an intellectual and a moral odyssey that I chose to embark on. But I do think that in my case, it's been non-religious and mystical, and I think I am hopefully less of a jerk than I used to be. I think I have a much more stronger moral code than I once did, and I think that's the story of aging and maturing and understanding the world and understanding all aspects of knowledge and all of that, and not just embracing a particular doctrine or something like that. No, I have various thinkers and people that I respect and who have influenced me, and you in the case of the Bible, you have influences as well. But I just would like to put out there that in terms of keeping your own moral house in order doesn't require necessarily a religion. It can be philosophers and other thinkers, and I personally find more value in that because it's more this worldly, more based on the world as we find it now, and more, frankly, more provable and evident and stuff like that. But I can still find within religion or mythology parables and things that are of great moral value. So to me, it's kind of like a cafeteria. You pick out what works and what doesn't work. So that's kind of my approach. But I think either of you are decent human beings, and I wouldn't worry about your becoming atheists and wanting to eat babies or anything like that. I think it would still be fine human beings.
Here, atheists eat babies. Jeff Keller says atheists eat babies. I'm kidding. Don't email me.
Well, you wouldn't be the first one to say that.
Oh goodness. Well, Jeff, thank you for jumping in the conversation,
yes,
man.
It was great. My pleasure, and I'll jump off. And if somebody else wants to come back on, but it was great to meet you, and thanks for this great conversation. And
thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Take care, buddy. I think we should, Bruce. Do we have time for one more? I'm taking my dinner.
I'm either way. I'm good.
Okay, one more. We'll have one more person. This is actually a lot of fun. I smell my dinner.
You're going to be up in arms now.
Okay, let's see. We've got Lively Debate. I think Lively Debate was debating Lively.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm behind here. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
I've got a different problem than Thomas.
That's okay. We can hear you. It looks like a good camera, though. Even though we can't see it, looks like a really high definition picture.
I'm kind of what you had said, Rocco. That's the back of my second monitor. My real monitor's here in front of me, so it's just a short cord, and the computer's on that side. So there we go.
Well, this works for audio. Audio is more important than video.
Exactly.
Wilson on
Tool Time. That's exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth.
I love it. Heidi Ho, good neighbor.
Heidi ho. Jeff and I know we have known each other for a couple years from Google Hangouts, so it was kind of fun to see that he's here on Blab too.
Oh, that's cool.
And we come at it from slightly different perspectives as well.
Are you an atheist?
I am. I was a born again Christian for almost 25 years, and I've been an atheist for almost that same amount of time, which I guess dates me now. But
that's why he's hiding behind the monitor.
I'm really, well, I don't. If I show myself out there and, I don't want women beating a path to my door, so
I have that problem.
I keep them at bay this way. Ignorance is bliss. Anyway, wow, where are we going? Oh yeah. So Jeff and I think that, this is always something that I like saying, and I hope you don't mind, but, I think people, I think it's probably true of Christians as well. You may have the same problem. People that are not atheists or people that are not Christians tend to think that the other group sort of can be painted with the same brush. That they all believe the same thing, they all act the same way, depending on your experiences. And that's not, and clearly that's not true. Jeff and I argue, dog and cat about politics and a whole host of other things. I think for me, and I think the only thing I wanted to really say is that even as an atheist, I think that if a person chooses to say that in the realm of spirituality, they choose not to use sort of the lens of science or demonstrable evidence like you would have in science, but instead they choose to use a different lens for their belief in God or to actuate their belief in God. I'm actually okay with that. I don't necessarily think that because we use science and logic in most areas of our day-to-day life, I don't think that obligates somebody necessarily to use it everywhere. I also don't think as an atheist that God is not necessarily there. Right? I don't think it's 0% chance that you're right in the end, and that we'll find out that God really is there. I think for me, it is more about being able to justify the belief that he's there. So not so much whether it's right or wrong. But it's sort of in the same way that if the Apostle Paul had said, every time you guys get together, whether it's the Last Supper, well, he doesn't have Last Supper, but right, whether it's the Last Supper, whether it's in Acts, whether it's, whether we're out preaching, whenever we get together, somebody always comes away with a cold and sneezing later. And he says, I think there's these really, really tiny, tiny, tiny little animals that you can't see and you can't touch and you can't feel. And I think that's what gives us colds. In the end, it would have turned out that he was correct, that his belief about reality was accurate. But I still think at that place and at that time, he wouldn't have been justified in holding that belief, that there would have been no reason for him to come to that way of looking at reality. And I tend to think it's the same, at least from my perspective, for religion, that while God may or may not be there, I can't find the justification for believing that. It seems to me that anything that we may present or may like to think of as evidence clearly has other possible explanations, which for the most part would seem to be more likely because we actually do know that those other things happen. We know people lie, we know people make up stories, we know the other things. We don't really know if gods exist. So it always seems to me that the evidence is rather weak, especially considering the what am I going to say? The repercussions of that evidence, right? So I think as Christians, you guys would agree that belief in God is a fundamentally important, maybe the most important decision that a person can make in terms of its repercussions. And I think to believe something like that, I would require far more than the evidence that we have that seems to be on the surface, at least very, very, very weak or very limited in terms of justifying that belief. Jeff said, and I'm sorry, I'll wrap up. I know you're trying to make this short. But Jeff also talked about this other thing about what's the harm. If people have a belief and they get a sense of comfort or a sense of peace, or maybe they feel that there's going to be some sort of justice here in the universe in the end. Where's the harm in that? If it makes them a better person, so what? Great. Why should atheists care? And I think the short answer to that is that our actions are fueled by our beliefs, right? Everything that we do as a person comes ultimately from what we believe about the world. And so I think believing something that seems, at least from what I can amass, what I can observe, believing something that seems very, very unlikely to be an accurate representation. To me, then I wouldn't want to hold that belief because I wouldn't want to be responsible for the actions that may come from it. And I know that there's always people, and people say, well, they claim they're, like you talked about Westboro Baptist Church, or there was the couple, I think in Seattle or in Oregon, I'm sorry, a few weeks back, that had the child with diabetes that believed that God would heal if they prayed for the child, didn't take the child to the hospital, and the child died in their care as a result. And you might say, well, that's not what they should have believed as a Christian. They should have had the common sense to go to the hospital first and then let God do afterwards, after the doctors looked at them. But the point is that they believe that, and that came from, again, a belief set that I think is very unlikely to be true. So that's kind of where I have problems with it. But sorry, long speech. Basically, though, I said same thing Jeff said. I think you guys are great. I really enjoyed the entire talk, and I had a good time here. So,
well, thank you. No, that you spoke well there. That was great. A couple of things I just want to say to that, and I certainly don't want to get into this long.
No debates.
I got Panda Express waiting for me, but a couple of things that it made me think of. One, I'm going to admit something right now, and I'm not going to ask Bruce unless he wants to say it, but I have doubts sometime.
Okay.
And I pray, but I do pray to God that, like, I'm like, not a lot. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like 50-50. Like every once in a while I go, what if I'm wrong?
Sure.
What if there's no,
I think most Christians would be lying if they didn't say that. Like if they said that they never said that.
Would you come with me, Bruce, on my next blab? Because I have a lot of those people. Maybe you could talk to them.
But my thought is like, and some of the questioning was like, okay, I don't want to believe in something that's wrong. But where I come from, this is where I come from. That is, if I have doubt at some time, but what if you're wrong? Like
Sure.
what's the wrong? What's the downside to believing in God when if there turns out to not be a God?
Sure.
It's a lot from my point of view. It's certainly a lot different than being wrong and not believing a God when there is a God. So
Okay.
that's kind of where, and I don't want to like throw that out there and say, okay, we have to go.
No.
If you want to like respond to that real quick.
Oh, and then not. I don't really. I mean, I think, and Jeff on the side is right. And I'm sure Bruce, recognizes Pascal's wager when we hear it.
I don't know what that is. So you're gonna have to.
Well, it's exactly what you kind of put forth there.
Okay.
In that what's the risk? If I'm going to gamble, I might as well gamble that God's there, because if I'm right, then I gain everything, and if I'm wrong, I've not lost anything. Basically, but I think in a longer discussion, I think that you do give up something if you're wrong. I mean, if you think about your life in terms of your beliefs, clearly you have put a lot of time and a lot of energy, and maybe given a lot of money. Maybe you've done a lot of things because you hold that belief to be true. And if it's not true, well, then those things are wasted. Maybe, depending on what you did. Or you may consider them a waste. For example, I don't know how much time you spend in prayer every day or every week. If we add those hours up over the course of your life, that's a lot of time. If God's not there, was that a waste?
It's not
Only you can say if that was a waste or not. Right? You might not consider it a waste.
Yeah.
And the other side to that is, if we're gonna play kind of hedge our bet. Clearly, if God's an omnipotent God, he must recognize the fact that we're believing because we're hedging our bet, which doesn't sound to me like that would be a rewardable type of faith.
No, and that's certainly not why I believe. But
I know.
But
and I think, and the third one, I'll say real quick to get out. I think, the other argument there too is to say, well, which God and which hell? Because if we're hedging our bets, then we should pick the worst hell or the best heaven out of all the possible ones out there, if that's really why we're doing this. So I think it's sort of a red herring, because like you, I don't think most people that are believers believe because of that. I think that would be a very rare find to see somebody that actually believes because of that. And again, I think that most atheists sort of recognize it for what it is, and most Christians do too. So another time, I would love to kind of talk about that with you, and that would be great. But like I said, in the same way that I was a Christian for all those years, if you had asked me 20 years ago, do you believe that Jesus is there? Do you have a relationship with Jesus? Does God answer your prayer? I would have absolutely said yes, and I wouldn't have done it disingenuously. I honestly believe that was the case. It's simply that on this side of it now, for me, and again, I can't speak for anybody else. I certainly can't speak for you guys, but for me, I had this nagging question. This is the short answer to why did I become an atheist. I did apologetics for 25 years. So I would typically be debating with Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Christian Scientists, whoever, and I would be holding their feet to the fire in terms of scripture and in terms of making them justify their belief in what a particular passage said. What kind of hermeneutics you're using, where are your sources, what do you really know about this? And there was a growing kind of gnawing at me that I never put my belief in God under that same spotlight, that I had always sort of just accepted as sort of a default starting point that God existed. And over the course of a few years I did, and I came out on a different side. But anyway. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for the discussion, Carlton. I appreciate you jumping on here and
all right.
sharing. We're learning a lot here.
I'm going to go off, and I meant what I said though. If you or Bruce want to ever come with me, in the people I talk to on the Blab community and Google, maybe you wouldn't actually believe how many Christians I talk to who, when asked if they ever have any doubts of any kind, right? I did too when I was a Christian, will absolutely say positively, absolutely not. They are 100% sure always. Now, this must be a different Christian than the one I grew up with, because, on our typical Wednesday Bible study, that's all we were doing was sort of, hitting that mole with a hammer again to make it go back down. So it's like, well, maybe your faith is weak. Maybe, maybe you just need to pray more. Maybe it's something that you'll find out when you get there. And so, yeah, I different brand.
We want to be real. We want to be. objective here is to be really real and to just
on the doubt part though, like I always go back to the father that comes to Jesus and says, "Hey, can you heal my boy?" And it's in Mark, and Jesus says, asks him, "Hey, do you believe?" And he says, "I do, but help my unbelief." Like
Thank you.
he's saying, like, I believe,
yeah,
but there's this part of me that just has this unbelief, and I need you to speak into that. So it, like, me and my wife went through the season where we really, and her more than me, really struggled with some doubts, and like, and on the end of it, God came through. Yep. For us, like God showed Himself faithful, and it was good. It was good for us. Like, and it wasn't like we were like, oh, God's testing our faith, but it was just struggles and like.
Sure. Wasn't as bad as Job then.
No, it was not.
Okay.
Not but
knock on wood. We need to knock on wood here.
Superstition. I don't believe in that.
You're not allowed to.
Yes, you do.
I'm going to confession.
Like, really, thanks for coming on. And
it is my pleasure.
Thank
you for having me.
You know, like, I typed it in there, but like, I know a couple atheists. I've known Satanists. I've known people that were antagonistic against Christianity. So like all different walks. And I would say like so many times, like it comes down to faith. And like for someone to say there's nothing after this, like that's faith. Like you're trusting that, you know, Jeff had mentioned about like following philosophy or whatnot. Different philosophers say different things. And if we get to pick and choose, like if we get to pick and choose what philosophies we believe and like who says what's moral, that's why we have to have the government say this is illegal. You can't do this because we're bad at picking what's moral. Like
is civil law the same as morality?
No, but
okay.
Man, do we? Man,
I was looking for another soapbox to get out.
Man, I'm a believer that you cannot legislate morality.
It's my bedtime.
This poor guy's got Chinese food over there getting cold.
I got pizza.
Okay, well then you guys need to go.
We got microwaves.
Rocco, I was going to tell you, sometime in a future discussion, we should have a chat because my wife is Roman Catholic. So
maybe we need to have both of you on here. This could be
still Roman Catholic while you're atheist.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that must drive her nuts.
Not really. Well, she's not quite a practicing Roman Catholic. She has problems with the church, politics, but faith is very important to her, and that kind of takes the form of what she grew up with. So
we could have both of them on the show, and we could just eat our pizza and let them talk.
Oh, please, do we have to?
Awesome. Well, hey, Carlton, follow us on Blab. I'll find you on Twitter.
Let me do that right now. I'm sorry. Let me do that right now. There
I'm
we go.
I'm going to follow you, and you'll know you're welcome to jump on here again. And if it fits the conversation, we'll put you in.
So I think it's appropriate that the atheists should have the closing thing, right? So yeah. I think that, whatever, right? So I'm gonna put on my hat, my Christian hat here, and just say, people remember, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So there you go.
There you go. That's awesome.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Good night.
Okay, well, Bruce, man, it kind of went a little different direction than I was expecting, but this was fun.
That's okay.
It's a good conversation.
It's the sidebar. Man, the sidebar gets you every time.
Oh, this is going to be fun. So, friends, all you guys listening, still here with us. We have 12 on right now. We've had 72 come and go. This has been a great blessing. And I'm learning a lot. And you and I and Thomas, when he could figure out his technology, are going to grow. We're going to grow as men and grow as Christians.
As odd.
And yes, as we're going to be very odd. We could grow together. The Odd Show. So we're going to wrap it up here. You can find us at The Odd Show. The G is silent. It is GODD show. What's that? Oh yeah. Go. What do you want to say, Bruce?
Okay. So no, on our website it says, but the whole thing is like, just three odd guys getting together, talking about that collision of Christianity and real life coming together. And like many times, God is kind of unspoken in our lives. And if we're, I don't remember exactly what our website says. Is that bad? Like,
Well, we've been on a blab for an hour and a half, so
but the G is silent because there are times that God is not seen in our lives necessarily, or like on the forefront of our lives, but we still honor Him in the way that we act. So
it's telling that, I mean, it's ironic in a sense that the two people that we had jump on were both atheists, and that was cool. It was really cool though. But yeah, because the G is silent, is, where's God, and sometimes he feels silent. So you can email us at Bruce or Rocco or Thomas, THOMAS, at The Odd Show with a G. You got to spell it with a G.
Right.
One of the things that we're looking at doing in the near future is having a guest come on with us, who has maybe an ongoing conversation, maybe a blog or a Facebook group that fits with some of the topics. So email one of us or all of us, however you want to do it, if you want to come on the show and get maybe a link to an article or something, and we'll see if it fits. And we'll try to make it fit, because having a blab is much better when you have more people come and go. So maybe somebody could come on and spend 20 minutes with us and kind of be part of the pre-planned stuff. So,
right. So the tagline real quick, it acknowledges that our lives are odd, and the G is a God who isn't always easy to see. That's
there you go. That was perfect. So with that, I think we're going to wrap it up and go have some pizza and some Chinese food.
Yeah, not together.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
Bye.